Notorious, so notorious.
It's Friday night, and the posse's back. Deep dives, local vibes, and headlines that matter, or totally don't. So crack a beer, crank it up. This is the NFNP.
Welcome to the second episode of the NFNP, the Notorious Friday Night Posse. We're back here. I'm joined once again by Duds, and we also have a new member, a fellow NFNPer, if you will, from back in the day, Nilla, joining us for the second episode. I love it. Say
Hey,
hi,
what's up?
Nilla. All right. So what also comes with the second episode, we're a little change up, right? Duds, I thought we had some fun last week. We talked a lot of politics, maybe a little too much politics, right?
Yeah, well, it was pretty much all politics, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And we're all into politics. I get that. But I want to go a little bit more, change the format up a little bit. We talked about this. Do more of a deep dive into a topic, right? Might change up every week. You'll do a deep dive, I'll do one. Nilla, it can be whatever topic we're into this week, whatever the case may be. So that'll be our lead-off segment. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll kind of go into live or local in the Louvre, right? Like what's going on locally in St. Louis. Do some fun stories. I got the wheel still, so we can spin the wheel and do some random stories, and then we'll go around the horn and see what else we want to talk about, right? So I already have so many topics, so many things I want to talk about. It feels like a guy's night where I get there and I've got like a laundry list of stuff. Like, I got to talk about this. I haven't seen these guys in so long. And then,
Do you write all
of
this
course,
down?
well, I did write some of it down today for the podcast. I did some prep, believe it or not.
I started
but-
to too. I was like, I have
Yeah.
to write some stuff down because I'll forget
Yeah.
about everything.
But here's the thing. There's so much stuff. I mean, the news is off the charts. There's too many stories. I understand why, the news moves so fast. There's just news stories every day. And there's so many things I want to talk about. I know we're not going to get to them all today, or we're not going to do it justice. We're not going to be able to talk about it long enough, but let's see what we got. So I thought we'd kick it off with our deep dive this week, our first deep dive. And I thought it was kind of topical. Well, there's a new, appropriate, right? We're coming up on Halloween. First off, Halloween is a week away, a week from today, actually. And Netflix just dropped recently their Monster series, their third season. And this time it's on Ed Gein. Ed Gein, who is a notorious serial killer, and it actually inspired.
I've never heard of him.
And that's crazy, but kind of like Nilla and I said before we started recording, I bet you know a little bit more about this guy than you think you do. He inspired other serial killers. He inspired a lot of movies and TV shows and things like that.
Wasn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre maybe after him?
Yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacres was
Really?
based
So
off
this
of
is
him.
You'll
from a
see
long
why
time
here in
ago.
a second.
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Yeah.
Norman Bates,
Yep,
Psycho
Psycho.
is based off of this guy. Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs.
They're
is
all based off of this one guy?
Yes.
Really?
He is kind of the initial serial killer. But what's kind of crazy is, and I'll talk about this, he actually only killed, or at least confirmed kills, 2 people. So when you think of, that's it, right? So when you think of serial killers, obviously there's Bundy and Dahmer and all these other serial killers that have killed way more people. Now those are his confirmed kills. There's some other
I
stories
guarantee it is
out
more.
there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to think so. So I mean, let's jump into it. I'll tell a little story here, and we'll go from there. So let's start with his early life, right? So Ed Gein, he was born on August 27th, 1906, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Quick little fact here: a lot of serial killers from Wisconsin. Don't know what that's about. But he grew up on a remote farm in Plainfield with a population of under 1,000. But somehow that was still too crowded for his mother, Augusta. Augusta was a fanatically religious woman she hated sin, and especially alcohol and women. Of course, except for herself, but
She
all
hated
other
women.
women. I know, crazy, right? She told Ed and his brother Henry that the world was evil and women were the devil's instruments. So the boys kept isolated on that 155-acre farm like chickens in a coop of shame. Ed was shy, he was bullied, and according to his psych file, he had a growth on his eyelid that caused a lazy eye. So, of course, kids teased him,
Yeah.
adults pitied him, and then his father died in 1940, and Ed was left all alone on that farm with his brother and his crazy, religious, fanatical mother.
Yeah, he was
So
doomed
then,
for sure.
oh yeah, doomed, right? So then in 1944, his brother Henry died in a suspicious fire on their property. What's kind of crazy, and if you watch the Netflix documentary,
Did he do it?
they really allude to this, and it's like I said, unconfirmed, but Ed reported his brother missing, but when the police showed up to the farm, he led the police straight to the body, and then when they did the autopsy, the coroner noticed bruises on Henry's head. So in the Netflix documentary, they show Ed Gein knocking him out and killing his brother.
But that's not confirmed.
But right, so they ruled it accidental.
But most
and,
likely.
And
I mean, come on.
smoke inhalation and then burning. So, but
Been missing, but he had
exactly. That's exactly it. Yes. So this might be some foreshadowing for sure.
How old was he at this time?
Well, you
Yeah,
have to do the
that's what I'm
math
wondering.
here. So this happened in 44. He was born in 1906. Duds is our mathematician here. What is that?
40, 38? Did you say it was
Yeah.
06?
06 to 44.
38.
Yeah, it'd be 38, right?
All right, 38. Okay.
I thought you were talking like he was in a teenager.
That's what I was thinking
or
originally,
younger.
too, but
No, yeah. So he's much older here, I guess.
Still living on
All
the
right.
farm with his crazy
Right.
mom.
That's right. But his mom died a year later, 1945, and that's
Murdered.
what pushed Ed over the edge, right? So just like in Psycho, he boarded up her room like it was a shrine, leaving everything untouched. The Bible open, the bed made, the curtains drawn, and then slowly he lost grip on any resemblance of a normal life that he had. So that takes us to, I guess, a serial.
Well, how did
killer
she die?
phase.
We don't know, I guess, or it's not important.
I didn't really necessarily look it up, but in the documentary, she had a stroke after Henry died and then was just in
Gotcha.
bad health, and Ed had to take care of her. Now,
So
the
hold on.
Netflix, yeah,
When did his dad die?
1940.
Okay, so
Yeah.
4 years they were there.
His dad was a drunk,
Probably beat him or something.
so that was all of that stuff, right? So not a great father figure, crazy religious fanatical mother, and maybe Henry,
Were they like
who knows what really
recluses?
happened
Did
there,
they just
but
hang out on the farm, or did they actually go into town?
and that's
or
the
anything?
thing. They did go into town, of course, but it's still a small community. They are out there on that farm. Remember, we're in the 40s here now, right? In middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. Yeah. So he lived there alone for the next decade, collecting newspapers, medical books, and
Just being
bodies.
crazy.
And bodies. Yes,
Only
so
two,
being
though,
crazy.
maybe.
Yes. Well, no, he had more than that. So between 1947 and 1957, he started robbing graves from nearby cemeteries. He said he'd slip out at night in a trance, dig up freshly buried middle-aged women who looked like his mother.
In a trance.
And bring them home for experiments.
What does that mean in a trance? What is he, like, mental? Well, obviously he is.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, in Psycho, they show him as having
did this guy not get caught doing this?
So
Digging
that
up
is
bodies and bringing them home. Nobody saw this guy.
Cameras?
the police, they wondered. Yeah, they didn't know what was happening. They knew these bodies were were being dug up, but it was from different cemeteries. They chalked it up to normal grave robbery, which was more common, I guess, back in the day. But even still, we're talking about the 40s and 50s here, so it shouldn't have been that common. It's not like it's the plague back in the 1500s or something. But when he finally did get busted inside that farmhouse, the police would find human skulls that he used as bowls, which Netflix does a good job representing that in the show. He had a chair upholstered with human skin. He had masks made from faces.
So that's definitely like a
Texas
Buffalo
Chainsaw
Bill.
Massacre.
Yeah, yep. And it gets worse. He had a belt made of nipples, and he had a full-on woman suit. An actual outfit of human skin that Ed admitted he wore around the house because he wanted to become his mother.
Wanted to become her.
How have I never heard of this guy before?
I'm telling you,
Nobody wants to.
It's crazy. It's a crazy story. Nobody wants to. That is true, right? Like, this guy's so nuts.
Yeah.
But obviously he inspired all of these pop culture icons and stuff like that. All right, ready for something really crazy and disgusting? So when the police asked him if he had sex with the bodies, his reply was, no, they smelled too bad. So talk about
that was the only reason, huh?
Yeah, well, and a lot of people do speculate that he did indeed have sex with the body. And in the Netflix show, they show that happening. So there's definitely thought that necrophilia was a thing.
Even though these people are that sick and twisted, they still don't want to admit to certain things that they think are even worse than actually, killing people. Yeah,
For
just
sure,
killing somebody,
right? And that's the thing.
That's pretty bad. But doing other sexual things with somebody who's dead, that's even more messed up.
Yeah, obviously murders happen all the time, and nobody's condoning that. Obviously, it's terrible and it shouldn't happen, but it's a little bit more normalized. But when you start having this kind of craziness, right? And I'm just gonna keep going with it. It's gonna get worse.
Oh wow!
Right?
It's just it amazes me that guy made it that into his 40s and 50s before.
Well, he didn't even do anything though.
When did he get caught? How old was he?
So I'm getting to that. All right. So for years, like I mentioned, the Plainfield police couldn't figure out why these graves were disturbed. And it wasn't until November 16th, 1957 that they found a clue, right? That led to Ed's downfall. So it was store owner Bernice Warden, aged 58, that disappeared from her hardware shop. And the police were able to track down Ed because the last receipt written from the store that morning was for a gallon of antifreeze sold to Ed Gein. So they just went
trail
to check
the last person.
Yep, paper trail, exactly. So when they went to the farm that night, inside the shed on the farm, they found Warden hung upside down like a deer, headless and gutted. And her heart was in a paper bag near the stove.
Right.
So in the house, they found a face mask belonging to Mary Hogan, his other murder victim, confirmed kill. And she was a tavern owner who had vanished in 1954, 3 years earlier. And Ed confessed to killing both women. And then he also confessed to robbing maybe 15 to 20 graves. Yeah. Now, when they finally did arrest him, the report said that he was relieved. One cop even said he acted like a man who had just finished a hard day's work. Yeah. And I thought the show, which doesn't have the best Rotten Tomato scores, believe it or not, but I thought they did a pretty good job with all of this and the murders and how he gets caught and, and they made some stuff up and it's storytelling and a lot of people are saying
you watched
that the
it already?
show. I did.
Well,
I
like
binged
8
it,
hours?
actually on my last. Yeah, it's 8 episodes. I was on a business trip. I watched some on the plane, and then
Was it good?
Stayed up late. I liked it, but I liked it as the historical part of it. Of course.
Did you know of him before you watched it?
I knew a little bit, but not as much as I as I did, or as I do now, and certainly after doing some additional research, I know more and stuff that the show didn't cover. They
This
didn't
guy
really go
made
in
it though. 51 years walking around
in
But
society,
he didn't
his
really
life,
he didn't
right?
really
Yeah.
Yeah,
start though until he was
just being the
38, right?
craziest kind of person.
but who knows what he really
Well,
did in his
yeah,
early
true.
life? Of course, a lot of serial
Animals,
killers kill animals and do some other
Mhm.
crazy stuff. So it is
Well,
hard to say. Is this a nature versus nurture thing? Of
yeah.
course, that's always a big question when it comes to psychopaths and sociopaths and
What did he
stuff
do
like
with the
that.
antifreeze?
Yeah, who the heck knows with this guy?
Right.
So
What was that,
what did he
Noah?
do with the antifreeze?
That I don't know. I was wondering that myself. Was that for the bodies? Was that for some? Maybe he just needed it for his truck. I couldn't tell you. But what I can tell you is it didn't help with his getaway. So after he was caught, he was charged with first-degree murder in 1957, but quickly declared unfit to stand trial. So of course, he spent 10 years in a state hospital before he finally faced a bench trial. So no jury trial. It was a bench trial, and that was in 1968. So he was found guilty, but of course legally insane, and he was sentenced to life in a mental institution. So it was at that time doctors diagnosed him with not only schizophrenia, but also sexual psychopathy.
Well,
They described him as polite, childlike, cooperative, and in hospitals and at the mental institution, he worked in the kitchen, he built furniture, he read crime magazines. It was kind of like Martha Stewart meets Silence of the Lambs here, right? So he lived quietly until July 26th, 1984, and he died of lung cancer. So somebody, crazy life here and taken down by lung
interesting.
cancer.
Did he smoke?
Yeah. I don't
Just
know,
curious,
probably. I mean, it's the 40s, 50s. I'm sure he did, right?
No, that was off limits for him. He'll do anything else, but
It
he's
was a
not going to
sin.
smoke.
Well,
Right, right.
you
All
were
right,
saying
so
though how he acted like he was super nice and stuff. I think sometimes these crazy people, they think that's the way to get people to lure them, right? Is to act like they're so innocent and they're so like normal-ish and stuff, whatever, but until they, handcuff you and chain you to a bed or something.
sure, and because he was childlike, I don't know that he had a high IQ, certainly, and everybody just thought like, oh, not Ed Gein, he's just this, poor kid, right?
Yeah.
Despite his age, he was the poor kid. And if you watch the documentary, or it's not a documentary, it's a TV show. But what's interesting is the actor that played him, the guy
I've seen him before
from
somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name here. He's the guy from Sons of
Yeah, that's it.
Anarchy. He
Charlie
did a
Hunnam?
really good job. Yeah, Charlie Hunnam
Really?
did a really good job. Of course, a lot of people are like, stop making these serial killers hot actors, right? But he
Yeah,
does
who
some
was the
weird
one
stuff.
that did, who played Jeffrey Dahmer?
I don't know the guy that played Jeffrey Dahmer, but
No, yeah,
Zac
Zac
Efron
Efron.
played
Ted
Ted
Bundy.
Bundy.
Or
That
Ted
was
Bundy.
Ted
That's
Bundy.
what
Yeah.
I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Charlie Hunnam, I thought he did a great job with his acting because he had to dress around in women's underwear and a woman's
heels.
suit. He was doing all this cross-dressing, crazy stuff, having sex with dead bodies. That's all
Dead
in the
bodies
show.
everywhere.
Yeah,
That is wild.
exactly. So I thought he did a good job. But what he said he found a 70-minute interview of Ed Gein that had been lost. So like nobody even knew that it was out there. And if you watch the show, his voice in the show is very interesting. It's very high pitched and soft spoken.
I don't think I would want to
Again,
do that. I don't think I'd want to be that
Yeah.
actor. Put yourself in that mind, like the mind of a crazy person like that.
Sure. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
actors that play crazy characters, but when it's in real life, that takes it to another level.
Right. You're like creating a actual crazy guy,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So after his death, like I said, it didn't necessarily end there.
Doesn't end there.
Yeah, he was buried in the Plainfield Cemetery, just a few feet from his mother and his brother, and just a few yards from a bunch of graves that he robbed. So right there, I'm like, come on. For 16 years, people flocked there. They chipped pieces off of his headstone. They took pictures like it was a roadside attraction. But then on Halloween, which is why this is a pertinent story, on Halloween 2000, the entire 150-pound headstone vanished without a trace. Yeah. So where do you think they found it? So remember, this happened in Wisconsin. Police find it 3 years later in, you guesses?
Green Bay.
Way further than that.
New York.
Seattle, Washington. Wow. Seattle, Washington. They found it in a guy's garage. And I guess the police had been tipped
along with
off.
some dead bodies, probably.
He stole the headstone. No dead bodies, but he stole the headstone. And he said he took it as a Halloween prank when he was visiting friends in Wisconsin. So the headstone was returned, but they did not put it back at the grave. So it's locked away to this day. Insider tip. I'm sure he was bragging and somebody turned him in, right? But they didn't charge him.
Posted it on YouTube,
didn't charge him or anything like that. Right. Yeah. Stupid criminals, right? But of course, just because he doesn't have a headstone, everybody still knows where Ed Gein is buried, and it's still an attraction. Yes.
If I ever go up that way, I guess I'll have to find it.
So, yeah, exactly. So like I said, then you got him, and I thought the TV show did a good job here too, because the story itself isn't long enough for 8 episodes. They did a really good job of bringing in Norman Bates and Psycho, Leatherface with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill with Silence of the Lambs.
So that's all confirmed that those stories are based off of him?
I think so.
Correct. 100% confirmed they're based, or at least on a minimum, inspired by him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Inspired. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So to wrap things up here, I got a couple of weird facts. His farmhouse. So they put it up for auction. They were auctioning off all the stuff inside the house, not the nipple belt, but not the chair, not the woman suit, but the normal stuff, I guess. And they were auctioning off the house itself, but it burned down right before the auction went live. Attributed to arson, but of course, again, no charges ever filed.
People don't
and it is for the best.
Stuff.
Nobody wanted that house.
Of course it is. I'm sure the people in Plainfield were like, can we be done with this? Like our whole town, this is going to be, this is what our town is known for from here on out. But his car was sold, and it toured as a carnival sideshow called Ed Gein's Ghoul Car, the Ghoul Car. Believe it or not, he received government farm subsidies.
I believe
while
that.
He was making all of his human skin grafts. They were
probably paying for it all.
Exactly. That's 100%, right?
Our tax money.
Here's a quote from Ed Gein, a little factoid, if you will. He said he kept his house heated so the furniture wouldn't get goosebumps.
All right.
That is an actual quote from Ed Gein. All right, this is another one that this
I can't see anybody else saying that.
No, only a serial killer, right? This one is nuts, and I didn't do a deep dive on this factoid, if you will, in particular, but the TV show definitely hints on it.
What do you consider a deep dive? Like,
I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research. I didn't spend a lot of time on this. That's
5-6 minutes,
but maybe. But they found 9 separate female genitalia in a desk drawer, and what that means is the vulvas of women that he kept. Yeah, something like that. That's the crudest way to say it, Nilla. But yeah, and so I don't really know what that's all about. There wasn't a lot of information on that. Like I said, the documentary touches on it. There were a lot of missing women around this time, so some people link these, I don't know what you want to call them, these trophies, if you will, to possibly those missing women. But again, those missing women, they're not confirmed kills. He didn't admit to killing them. So, were these dug up? I don't think
somebody else killed them and put them in his
wouldn't
house.
They be able to possibly tell how long they had been, I don't know what you want to call it, exposed or, breaking down, or I don't know.
Yeah, not back then, I don't think. Obviously, there's no DNA, there's none of that crazy stuff. So I don't know, man. So, to wrap it up, the final irony here, he only committed 2 confirmed kills. I mean, obviously you got his brother, you got these 9 missing women, but for somebody that has inspired so many, possibly other serial killers, pop culture icons, this is truly the killer next door who thinks he's doing chores. And I think that's what people find, so creepy about him. And to your point, Duds, one of the police officers said, in Plainfield, the horror was not that Ed Gein existed. It's that he lived here for so long and no one noticed.
Exactly, man. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Makes you think like how many crazy people are walking around every day.
What is? I think one of the stats that's out there is that essentially in the United States at any given time there's 100 active serial killers.
That's
I don't know if that's a true stat. I'm not making that up. I've definitely heard it. That's essentially like 2 per state that are active, right? So pretty nuts. You guys got any other thoughts on Ed Gein?
Is there any actual documentaries on him? Do you know for sure, or not necessarily? I was curious.
I believe so. There were several other things about himself here. So outside of just so there was Deranged, which came out in 1974. Ed Gein, that came out in 2000. The Butcher of Plainfield in 2007.
I've heard of that one actually, but I didn't know that was him at the time because I didn't know where he's from. And
that was him, exactly. And now you have Monster, the Ed Gein story. So I don't know if some of those are documentaries, if they're all docudramas.
I'll have to take a poll of some people I know and see if anybody else has heard of this guy.
Yeah, certainly he's not as famous as Bundy or Dahmer from a name recognition. But when you start hearing all of these things that he did and you start connecting,
I'm just really surprised how many of these movies that he inspired that were all based off of the stuff that he did.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'll have to ask the old lady here because she loves those shows, and I'm surprised she probably hasn't watched already, some documentary on him, but I know she's watched the other 2 Monsters ones, so she's going to watch this one, so I'm sure I'll see part of it or hear about it.
Well, I'm going to pull out my book here, and this was not planned. It's just happened to be on my desk. It's the last book on the left. I listened to the last podcast on the left, if you haven't listened to it, and this is all about serial killers. So we got Ted Bundy, Richard Chase, Ed Gein, Chapter 3. So there you go. John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez, David Berkowitz, BTK, Andre Chikatilo, and Jeffrey Dahmer. So that's
is this an interest of yours? Do you research these guys?
Well, I read this book. I've probably listened to all the last podcast on the lefts about the serial killers. So yeah, it's a little bit of an interest.
You know a lot about them, huh? Interesting.
I just made a mess in my office.
Well, that's the thing. I think that even though it's so like disturbing and messed up, basically people find it interesting because of that, basically itself.
Well, I certainly think that's part of it, right? People have a morbid interest in all this stuff and morbid curiosity of how could somebody do this? What did they do? That's why his grave is still a tourist attraction, right?
I think they want to understand too, if somebody does anyway, psychologists or whatever, how somebody could do this or why. And it may be like signs in the future for people who, like, oh, maybe this person's a serial killer,
Yeah, maybe. Check out Mindhunter on Netflix if you haven't checked that out. That's a good one about the FBI and how they kind of started their criminal psychology division and looking
I heard
into
of it. I haven't
serial
seen
killers. They canceled it way too soon. It was, it's David Fincher, which, great guy, great actors, 2 seasons. People on Netflix love it. And then they canceled it, or they at least stopped making it. There's rumors to this day that they'll bring it back. But, and this will end with this in the Monster, the Netflix show about Ed Gein. They actually connect it to Mindhunter on Netflix, which it's all made up. So it's more for dramatic effect and for us, true crime. But if you're into that stuff, there is a connection, a little bit of a spoiler there, but worth the watch, especially as we go into Halloween.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to watch it.
Who has the time, right? All right. Well, let's move on. Let's move on to our next segment. So local in the Lou. So of course we're all St. Louis based, born and raised. And I picked out a couple of different stories here, and I'll let you guys pick.
Do you have sponsors you can plug right now?
This is episode 2. Definitely no sponsors just yet. Maybe I can convince Four Hands.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I'm drinking their Oktoberfest
I was thinking about
beer
that one
right
guy
now.
who does
Maybe I
the
can
asphalt.
convince
Maybe
them.
St. Louis Blues. We'll advertise for them. Send us
The
some
asphalt
tickets.
guy, maybe the asphalt guy. You never know. We'll see about getting sponsors at some point, but we're not there yet. That's for sure. You can
Let's
probably
not put the
tell.
cart before the horse. Yeah.
That's right.
Come on.
That's right. All right. So you guys pick the story. You tell me what story you want to listen to or talk about. We've got the debacle, the craziness that is the St. Louis Sheriff's Department. We have the rescue on the KSDK
I was gonna say
transmission
something about that.
tower the other day. Yeah. Alaska Airlines starting up a new flight out of St. Louis Lambert Airport. There's been new developments on the Armory. Any
The
of
data
those?
center?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got some information about all of that stuff. You guys tell me, what do you want to talk about?
Let's hear about the Armory.
The Armory. All right. Well, I like the story because I visited the Armory when it opened. They hosted some St. Louis City SC events, blues watch parties. It was a great indoor family friendly option but still had an adult feel. Did you guys ever have the opportunity to visit?
I didn't.
Oh, I tell you, this place was cool. And I had been to the Armory in Minneapolis for a work event. Very similar. I mean, the building is super old. You know, it dates back, I don't even know how long, probably to pre-World War II. And, they completely renovated it. So it's right there in Midtown. And it opened in December 2022 as a massive 250,000 square foot entertainment complex. And big screens and video games upstairs, pinball, bars all over the
Area.
place.
Then they have like ping pong and like
Huge.
bags and stuff.
They had all the games. They had
Was it
bags.
drawing a crowd?
I mean, when I went there, the place was packed. Now it was I'd been there a couple times, but I took the kids for the St. Louis City. I think it was maybe the 2023, their second season. Pre-season party, if you will. It was very close to the Foundry, and they were talking about building a way to easily get from the Foundry to the Armory, so you could kind of go back and forth. It was just a cool venue, whether it was on a rainy Saturday where you didn't know what else to do. You had a cool place with, like you said, Nilla, a huge open space, great beer selection, fun stuff to do for adults, and during the day, even the kiddos, so really loved the concept. But on September 2024, the Armory announced a temporary closure, which turned out to be a permanent closure, and they blamed it on lack of funding for the full build out. So I do know that they were planning a rooftop beer garden, and then they were going to have a bunch of event space on the basement level or the ground level, right? So they could host weddings and corporate events, and that stuff never got built out. And, they blamed it on their funding partners that didn't deliver the money.
You'd think they'd keep it open still, but
yeah, but they went bankrupt. They didn't have enough money. They were hemorrhaging money, and they claimed that they needed the full project. They needed the beer garden. They needed the event space to keep the rest of it funded and operating. It didn't get to that point, unfortunately. So they owed, listen to this, over $400 million. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It does seem like a lot to build a game room and some bars.
Sure. I don't know what their ROI was. I don't know, and obviously it takes time. You're not always going to be profitable on year one. But finally, I think people in St. Louis were like, all right,
$400 million seems
big
like
city,
a dang lot of money, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, right? So you hate to see it. You hate to see it. So let's see what else here. It had 1.5 million visitors in its first 2 years. Like that's a lot of people. So all right, here's what the deal is now, though. So it's closed. It's been closed, and now the developer wants to turn it into a data center, right? Like
Amazon.
Terrible. Do we need another data center?
No, maybe.
And
didn't you hear about that?
Yeah, I mean, AWS went down the other day.
Yeah, but
half the internet was down.
That is true. Yes, it was. As was this software that I use for this podcast. It was down. Our work, a lot of stuff was down.
There's
But
too
you're
much
right. I
money in
mean,
those, so they're just putting them up everywhere.
and that is the thing. And it's not that in the world we don't need data centers, but do we need to put one in this historical? This is a historical building, that was this cool space, and now we're going to turn it into a data center. And
I
of
think they
course, the
like
people.
it because it's already built.
Well, I mean, the building itself, yeah, and it's huge, right? It's huge, but as far as the location goes, I don't know that it makes sense for a data
Probably.
center. Well, people are
They
not
probably
happy.
wanted to like mine Bitcoin or something out of it.
I like it as an entertainment venue. I guess it's been like tennis courts back in the day. It's been
Yeah,
some
actually,
crazy
you know what?
stuff.
My boss said that he played indoor soccer there, I think, actually back in the day.
Yeah, my dad said that too. So, but other cities have taken this building that was in a lot of different cities, and they're identical, and they've turned them into cool stuff, concert venues, and we're going to turn it into a data center. To me, that's just typical St. Louis, right? It's like, we don't have the vision, we don't have the money, we don't have the right people putting this all together. So anyhow, the community, they had 200 residents that showed up for a town hall that spoke against the data center idea. So they said that they don't really know how many jobs it's going to create. They're worried about higher electric bills in the area. And I don't know if you've read up on this, but St. Louis Ameren has shut off electricity to residents so that they could continue to power data centers elsewhere in the region.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy. Which I'm starting to wonder if I was affected by this because, I don't know, several months ago, of course, in the middle of the summer, we had some random blackouts that were not associated with weather, storms, or anything like that. We just lose power for 4 hours in the middle of the day. And of course, I work from home, so that's a challenge. So I don't know if that's directly related or not. But if Ameren is shutting off power to residents,
seems like it could be like illegal almost.
so that they can, you would think so. And then we're all paying higher electric bills. Actually, Josh Hawley
that was
brought
one of the
this up
things I wrote
recently.
down, Brightman. I wanted to talk about was the electric
Well, look
bill.
at that.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, let's go into it right now since it's kind of on topic. What about the electric bill?
So
you got
I
one?
looked. Yeah, I looked, and the electric bill that I got for last month is like $160.
Yeah.
I looked at the one I had 2 years ago. It was for the same amount of electricity, and it was 105. It had gone up like $60 for the same amount of electricity in just about 2 years.
I think it is crazy. And I think when we talk about the economy and, inflation that we saw under President Biden, and yes, it's come down, but it's not going to come back down to $105.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is it. This is it. Now there's been talk about building more nuclear power plants and of course drill baby drill and all of that, but there's just going to be with AI, there's going to be more data centers, there's going to be more demand on power.
Well, there is the possibility,
and these prices are just going to go up.
Though of hey, why don't you just put solar panels on your house, or something?
Well, a lot of the times that's a scam too. My house faces south. I get sun all day long, and I've thought about it, but most of the companies that do it, they actually
destroys your roof though.
Well, that is a concern, right? And I just got a new roof recently, so that is an issue. But they don't sell you the panels. Most of the companies. So what they come in, they give you the panels, and then they tell you that they're going to reduce your electric bill, but then you just pay them. So it's not like you're off the grid. Like you pay them and they feed money or they feed electricity actually back to Ameren a lot of the times. So yeah, right. But it doesn't actually
they're
benefit
making money on you
a whole lot because
you're saving money.
So unless you buy your solar panels outright, which I think most people probably
what's that, like $30,000 probably,
right?
Or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even know, right? So that's the thing. You got to buy each panel and own it 100%, and then you got to have like a Tesla battery,
Yeah, I priced it all up. It is not worth it.
Well, no, exactly.
It does not.
I thought
pay
about
itself
it too,
back.
actually, and I said,
Not
what? I don't know how long I'm going to be here necessarily. So you know what? Next house, which granted, they'll probably be like 10 years from now, and then it probably won't happen by then because they'll probably have some new technology out. It'll be like wind turbines or something. Who knows?
Hydrogen will be powered by hydrogen.
Yeah, I don't
cold
think we're going
fusion.
into wind energy.
I know it's pretty windy the last 2 days.
Yeah,
They really need to solve that storage issue with the solar, though. because I think that's really that'll be the
Well,
future
yeah, I mean, but
Sure.
batteries too have come a
major
long
energy
ways. I mean,
producer.
technology with batteries in the past, 5 years. I mean, it's crazy. So I don't know why they couldn't store it.
Yeah, it definitely has. And, there's always this talk about like, oh, you could just build a huge solar farm out in the middle of Saudi Arabia that would power the entire world. But the problem is you got to
Yep,
transport that
exactly.
electricity somehow, right?
Well, it's really the
And you got to
storage, because
store it,
you
right?
can get it. I was listening to a book. They were talking about how in like 1 hour, enough sunlight hits the earth that it can power the entire globe for, I think it was a year. It's that
That's
much
insane.
energy.
Yeah. I
So,
also think we're probably
but
close
you
to
have to be able
nuclear
to store it
fusion.
somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Nuclear fusion could be a couple years out. And I'm also of the mindset that AI, once we kind of get general AI, which we're probably like 5 years
Maybe.
out from that
Yeah.
or less, it'll be here before you know it, that they're going to start solving all these problems that humans haven't been able to solve. And we'll have
Quantum
solar
computers.
panel and exactly. You put AI with quantum computers, off the charts, man. So just wait. I hope we're alive
Yeah,
long enough
really see it.
to witness all the cool stuff that's coming. All right, I had one other really quick hit for local on the Lou, and that's something I'm kind of pumped about before we move on to the wheel, and that's Story of the Year. A St. Louis band, one of my favorite bands. I think we've all been to a Story concert here or there. They announced a new album. I think it's their 8th album, which is kind of crazy. Person is dropping on February 13th, 2026.
Maybe they burnt out
So,
Ed
and
Gein's house.
you know what? Maybe. I don't know. Their first single is entitled Gasoline.
Not antifreeze.
No, not antifreeze. Right. There you go. Good connection.
No
there.
connection
Good
there.
Connection there. Right. All right. Next segment. I've got our weekly wheel, and I've got just a bunch of topics here. I'm going to give the wheel a spin. We'll see what happens, and what story we're gonna speak to here.
Are you spinning it or is AI?
The Wheel of Names on Google. All right. I think this one's pretty good. Although there hasn't been a lot of information about it yet. The one that popped up is a hunting stand that was found. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Found outside of the landing zone for Air Force One.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this happened earlier this week, I think, or maybe the end of last week. It's possibly assassination attempt number 3. That they
Secret Service found the tree stand. It was in view of where Air Force One was typically
far
taken
away,
off from,
roughly,
or
are we
loading,
talking here, give or take? I mean, because you can only get so close to it.
Well, let's see. It had line of sight to Donald Trump's Air Force One exit zone, and it was found near the Palm Beach International Airport. So obviously raising fears of assassination attempt number 3. They discovered it on an elevated tree stand on Thursday of last week during an advanced sweep ahead of President Trump's visit. It was within 200 yards of Air Force One parking zone. So that's close. I mean, when we think about, his first assassination attempt, when we think about Charlie Kirk, I mean, very clearly, almost anybody with any skill could take somebody out at that range. So I know the FBI completely dismantled the thing. They brought it back to D.C. They're investigating.
Did they dispose of all the evidence?
No individuals or ammunition was found on the site. So, of course, I mean, I guess there's a chance that this is legit.
Maybe,
and I think that's probably what they're looking for, right? Yeah. Yeah. So was this a real, sniper setup? Was this, an actual hunting stand? Was it a red herring? Who knows? But pretty crazy story, especially considering all the violence we've seen, political violence we've seen in the last
I don't believe in coincidences like that,
Exactly. That 100%, right?
Yeah.
Right outside the airport in Palm Beach, where we know
line
that
of sight.
he line 200 yards.
Yeah.
Seems a little. All right. Well, quick story there. So let's take it around the horn as we start to wrap up here. What else did you guys have to talk about? I have a couple of other stories, but let's throw it to you guys first. Anything of interest?
Greg, what do you got?
Something came to my mind actually. I was watching last night actually with my wife was this special on Ozzy Osbourne. You guys see that at all?
No, I haven't seen
It
it
was
yet, but I've
pretty
heard
interesting,
about it.
actually. I didn't really realize a lot of the stuff, and I mean, obviously towards the end, I mean, kind of sad in general, but it was like I didn't know he was really going through that much debilitating immobilization from not only the Parkinson's, but also actually
Parkinson's, yeah.
almost,
Did he?
yeah. Did he die
Yes,
When
yes,
did
he
he
like
die?
a
died.
month ago or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
6 to 8
Yeah.
weeks ago, probably.
So
Yeah.
not only the Parkinson's though, but actually what was even more crippling was that he had broke his back, I think, or his neck, I forget. But basically from there it just went downhill. And then like the other one got like more like affected, which caused him more pain. He was in a lot of pain. And then he also, when he was in the hospital, I guess had gotten sepsis towards the end, which that'll kill people in general. And he really hadn't been out of the house hardly in like years. I mean, this was going on the whole thing for probably last 5, maybe 6 years of his life, actually, almost.
In all actuality, it's pretty crazy that he made
Well,
it
yeah,
this long,
yeah,
right? History of drug and alcohol abuse, craziness. We saw him back in the day on the
hmm
Osbournes, and I thought he was on death's door back then,
Yeah.
right? And that was 20 twenty
yeah,
five
yeah.
years ago,
Actually,
so that alone was
Jane was
crazy.
watching that, and she said actually that she was actually watching the Osbournes again recently. And she's like, now that you
Yeah,
know that he had Parkinson's, you could actually see it even back then. And that was like early 2000s, like you said. So he had it then. I don't know if he was diagnosed necessarily, but I think that Parkinson's
sure.
and some other diseases like that have come a long way since, then, and people like know what they are more. But
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, it is sad, and you look at his
yeah,
last
yeah.
concert, was pretty cool, I think, for him and everybody that got to be there. Of course, his music
Oh, yeah.
streaming went through the charts after his death. Even the St. Louis Blues, which are on in the background, they're losing. Oh, we just scored actually, 5-3 in the third period. But their intro
Hmm.
video is set to, I think it's "Crazy Train" by Ozzy Osbourne this year, but because of course he has that
Great
St. Louis
song.
connection. Have you guys
That
you've
was
Oh
the
seen his
yeah.
jersey.
mug
Yeah, the
shots where
mugshot.
he's in the St.
Yeah,
Louis Blues jersey? I mean, it's
yeah.
it's iconic.
Yep. Yeah, it's got
So,
to be the
for
greatest
the
Oh, yeah.
mugshot.
Blues, that and I think who else has a really
Trump
good
has a really
one?
good one.
Well, yes, Donald Trump does have a good one. I think David Lee Roth, does he have a good St. Louis one too? Maybe I can't quite remember. I'll have to look that up.
Anyways, it was
Here,
It was
maybe I'll
pretty
look
good
it
though.
up.
I mean, yeah, it was just crazy how many people like came together and stuff, like big, like celebrities and stuff, like rock stars. And actually, he being interviewed, and he even said, "I didn't even think I would basically live this long." So he knew, that he lived a rough life. I mean, he got kicked out of Black Sabbath, and stuff. I mean, but he's got some good jams.
Right. Oh yeah, he's got a lot of good songs. I mean, there's no doubt about
What do you got, Duds?
it. All right,
Right, still
go
looking
ahead,
something
Duds.
up.
What do you got?
What were you looking up? The
I was looking
mugshot?
up David Lee Roth, but I'm not seeing any mugshot. Maybe I'm confusing that one with Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe I feel like there's another one out there somewhere. Anyhow, all right, Duds, what do you got? Anything else before we start to wrap it up here?
What do you guys think about the price of gold going up like it has? Have you seen that?
Nilla and I, we were talking about this last weekend around the
Mm-hmm.
fire, weren't we? Too little, too late. I'm like, how am I not invested in this?
Yeah, it's too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. I wouldn't buy any now.
Right, you gotta wait for the
Yeah.
dip.
Yeah, one of my coworkers bought a ounce of gold at Costco. It was like $3,600 or $3,500, and like
Mhm.
3 weeks later, it was already up to $4,300.
Wow, that's crazy.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
What was that stat?
so I
Remember
was
you
like,
looked it up,
you should go
Brightman?
sell
Like
it.
the price in the past, what was like 2 years was up? What was it, 50% or something,
Yeah,
or 1 year?
it was up 50%. I think in
1 year,
this
yeah.
year alone. Here, I'll look
Well,
it up
I
right
actually just
now.
heard some
But
guy at work actually talking about. He was actually talking about silver, and then and you don't hear as much about silver necessarily as gold. The price of it basically. But I really had no idea what the price of gold was because, like, you just don't really see that all the time. But I do remember a couple years ago, and I thought it was 2,000 something, maybe 2,500, and then I heard it was
Right.
4,000, and I was like, what? That's insane.
Yeah.
yeah, let me see if I can find like a chart here. It's over 4,000 something dollars an
Mhm.
ounce right now. And here we go. All right.
I don't own any gold.
If I did, I'd
In
sell
the
it.
last year. So it's gone up from it was $2,600 this time last year, and now for over $4,000. So I mean
That's pretty crazy. That's a big move.
huge jump. So yeah, I mean,
So do you
if
think
you
that
would
has
have
anything
bought,
to do with the Federal Reserve inflation rates and printing money?
I'm sure it has to tie in
I mean, it
somehow.
has
I think
to,
that's
right?
I
And
think that's an
you look at
indicator
the
that nobody's confident in the dollar anymore.
well,
Right.
certainly that's a little concerning. You look at the price of Bitcoin too. Obviously going up. I did buy the dip on that the other
What's it at
day.
now? Did it go back up?
Did you?
That I
You
yeah,
gotta
it
buy
went
it
back
every
up. I
day.
think it was at like 110. I do buy it weekly. I buy
I
it
saw it was
weekly
106,
as
wasn't it?
well,
Like just a
but
couple days ago.
yeah, so I bought it, I think when it was right around 107, 108, and then it dropped even more, which I'm like, of
Yeah.
course it did, because I just
So
invested.
get this, Brightman.
Yeah,
There's
but now it's up. It's up again.
The exchange I use added a supercharge buy. So my recurring buys that happen every day, it said if it drops below 1% below the 7-day moving average, you can add a multiplier so it can do 25, 50, 75,
Right.
or 100%.
That's cool.
That way it's down, you're buying
Interesting.
more, and then it goes up
Right.
and it just
Right.
buys normally. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, that's awesome. So
Yeah. That's pretty neat. I started doing my weekly buy a couple years ago. So I think I showed you the other day, my average
Mhm.
cost was
Mhm.
really low. Now I didn't have
Right.
a lot of Bitcoin at the time, but now I've bought a little bit more, but my average cost went way up.
Speaking of that, did you see this article? And I didn't read the whole thing, but it was about something to do with Elon Musk sold like a whole bunch of Bitcoin just the other day.
yeah, I didn't read
I
about
didn't
it.
read the whole article,
But
it
that
was a
certainly
lot.
influences things. Anything that Elon Musk does with his stock,
Mhm.
with Tesla stock, taking out loans, buying other companies, selling Bitcoin, it not only affects, I'm
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
Bitcoin, it affects
Yeah.
Tesla. People start speculating what he's doing.
Did you see that article I sent about him wanting like $1
The
trillion
Army.
salary?
Well, no, so that is a real thing. So the board of Tesla has offered up his next compensation package for like the next 10 years.
Yeah, $1 trillion.
And it would make him the first trillionaire in history, but he has to accomplish a bunch of stuff, right? So it's all pretty much incentive based. He has to grow their net revenue, their EBITDA score, their all of that. It's all kind of crazy business stuff that he has to accomplish.
Did you see why he wanted to maintain control though? Because of the robot army.
Yeah, because he doesn't want
He doesn't want some other person to come over and take his
droid
company.
army
Yeah.
from Star Wars, taking over the Galactic Empire.
He does like the Star Wars.
All right. Well,
it's kind of hard to believe that we're there.
Yeah, like I said, within our lifetime, maybe we'll see. All right. I had a couple of other real quick things. We got about 5 minutes left before we hit the 1 hour mark. Not that we can't go over, but did you guys hear about
is that your limit or is that the app's limit?
Neither one. We could talk for as long as we want to talk. It's just like, how long do people really want to listen to us talk?
Who are these people? Who are these listeners?
Yeah, who are these listeners? That's a good point.
Hit us up in the comments. Let us know who you are.
Well done, Duz. Well done. Okay, did you guys hear about the heist at the Louvre?
Mm-hmm.
No, my parents were just over there.
So was I. Caroline and I went over there this summer, and of course I loved
last
it.
week. Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Well, they may have witnessed. This happened on Sunday, October 19th. So that was this past
what was it
Sunday.
they stole?
Let me see if they were. I don't think they were there.
So they stole the crown jewels of Napoleon. The crown jewels of Napoleon, which are priceless. Like, I don't know how you sell these on like the black. That's right. Yes. And they posed. It was the old ladder trick, right? You just walk around with a ladder. Everybody thinks you're somebody. They dressed up as construction workers. They
got to put a hard hat on and get a ladder.
Yeah, I think an orange vest and a ladder, official. And they broke into the windows. They had miniature chainsaws that let them into the case. I think they did all of this in under 7 minutes, and then they got out of there and hopped on Vespas. I think they call them motorbikes. But let's be real, this is Europe, right? It's
I thought you were going to say on their or something.
Their Honda speed bikes or Harleys or something like that. They're on their scooters.
Their Vespas.
But they got out of there. And yeah, they stole 8 pieces of French crown jewels, tiaras, emerald necklaces, earrings, a crown,
Did it have any
crazy stuff.
leads?
I don't necessarily know about that, but I did hear
what are you gonna do
today
with that
that they
Well, I know you can't sell it to anybody
exactly,
on
that's what I
black
mean.
market. What, it'll come back out how many years
Right.
later, and then what?
Right. Sure. And this
Yeah.
has happened before. The Mona Lisa was stolen for
Oh,
2
wow.
years, you know, from the Louvre, which you think about that, which is nutso, you know. So pretty
Well,
crazy
when was
stuff.
that though? I mean,
Yeah, I think that was like in the
Probably not doing that anymore.
1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
wouldn't think so.
Oh,
right?
hey, fun fact I heard about, you just mentioned Napoleon. And you know how everybody always talks how he's like, you know, was super short and stuff and everything. They actually said
Yeah.
that that's not true, and they said that actually for the time he was actually above average for a white European male.
Well, he was
I think it was
short
like 5'10"
by certainly
or
by
something, I
today's
think, or 5'8".
standards.
8.
I don't think
No.
so. I think he was like 5'5".
That's why I had to wear that big hat and get him some more height.
I think he was pretty short. I am looking it up right now.
All the
Napoleon.
cartoons always showed him being like 2 foot tall.
Right, exactly. Well, that's for, you know, like story purposes, exaggeration, you know, that's, you know, what
Yeah.
sells.
Yeah. All right,
6?
5'6".
I thought it was taller, actually.
Yeah.
But at the time,
All right, you want to do?
It's like Dark Helmet.
Lord Helmet?
Lord Helmet? Yeah, that's right.
All right, here's a crazy one, and we're not going to go into this, but if you want to do some research on your own, or maybe we'll do a deep dive in another episode, look up Napoleon's penis. Look that up. And it's
I'm
not about the
looking that
size.
up.
It's not about the size. It has become a collector's item after his death. And you'll have to look up where it currently is, how it
Right,
got there.
Plainsfield.
It's not with his body like you would expect. It's a little interesting history story. So
Is
if you
this
wanna go
like,
down that rabbit
I'm not
hole.
going
Is
down
this
that one. That's a rabbit hole I don't need to go.
Yeah, this is certified. It's a real thing. I think like if whoever has his penis has a certificate that it is Napoleon's
It
penis.
wasn't Bobbitt's?
Doesn't that just decompose after a while? Like,
I don't think it's in great shape.
It's not usable.
No.
keep that in the.
Yeah, it's petrified wood at this point. But bump. Okay, all right. Last minute stories because I told you there was too much to talk about. Just real quick, and maybe we'll hit on these next week. This White House ballroom renovation. This is blowing up. Liberals are losing their mind. You know, which I don't understand because yeah, he's doing some construction, but almost every president has done some construction.
It's the
He's
same
paying for
tired
it
story.
out of his
Everything
pocket.
he does.
I heard he
Yeah, it's
wasn't,
crazy.
but I don't know.
Everything.
Him and donors. So it's him and donors, but the taxpayer is not paying for it. You know, President Obama did a bunch of stuff, and
How can they?
you know, of course,
I
there's
don't really know how
big
this
ones.
works, but like, how can they just do that? It's not theirs. Does it have to be agreed upon, like voted on? Like, how's that work?
No, but there are some rules. There is a little bit of oversight, but not a lot. Like essentially,
you voted him
president.
in. You're kind of telling him he can do what you need to do. Yeah.
And I just read a book about all the different presidents from Washington all the way up to Obama, and then they did a little recap of Trump and Biden. Of course, there hasn't been a lot of history there, but throughout the book, they talk about a lot of the stuff that they do at the White House. Everything from new decor, major construction, putting in electric lighting, the desks, all of that. You know,
those buildings are constantly being worked
I
on.
can
All
see
of
that stuff a little bit more, though. You know, you're talking about like interior decorating as opposed to a huge like wing being, you know, just I don't even know how big this thing is, but I mean it's huge. And it's what for a ballroom? Who ballroom dances anymore?
Yeah, so they're gonna put in a ballroom. Well, it's not for ballroom dancing per se, but come on, it's for hosting.
Rich politicians.
Obviously, you would think, yes, of course they're hosting, right? They're hosting, and back in the day, they used to host all kinds of dinners.
So they
and
have that media dinner and all that.
This is a common thing, right? So I think it's very reasonable that the White House has a ballroom.
Well, I don't know why they already didn't have one.
I mean, if any house is going to have one, it should be that one.
You know,
what other house is it going to be built in?
Right, of course. We've had a pool that was installed and then torn out. We had tennis courts that was installed and then torn out for a basketball court. That was Obama. Truman rebuilt, completely gutted the interior. And I know that's an interior, but completely gutted it. It was Teddy Roosevelt that added the west and the east wings. FDR completely expanded the east wing, built the underground bunker. So, I mean, this is a thing. So calm down. let's see what the finished product is going to be, you know. Well, and that was on my wheel today, the shutdown. We're on day 23 of the shutdown, so we'll see if
I haven't noticed anything.
Well, no,
great.
but we talked about this a little bit last week. People are going to start missing paychecks. And
That's
the Democrats voted against today in the Senate, voted against paying federal workers their wage. Only 3 Democrats joined Republicans to pay federal workers. So it's not a great look for the Democrats.
But they're still getting paid, though, so don't worry about it.
Are they planning on like
Exactly.
putting a balanced budget through? What are they planning on doing?
Well,
what are they trying to do?
Good point.
Well, that's what the Republicans are saying. You know, the Republicans they have a very clean bill, you know, that they claim anyway. It's not like I've read it, but they claim it's a clean bill that does nothing but extend everything that's currently in place. But the Democrats want $150 billion for
adders.
Yeah.
Well, they want it for Medicaid, primarily for illegal immigrants.
Yeah, well, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah. Right, most likely. And then there's some arguments there, but yeah. And it doesn't look like the Republicans are backing down.
It's a standoff.
Well, they shouldn't, especially if it's just, hey, we're just extending exactly what we're doing. We're not adding anything. It's like,
this is
right.
That can't hurt. That can't hurt any. I mean,
this is the second longest shutdown, and also the first shutdown was also under Trump's. Which is interesting.
Yes. His first term.
So I mean,
it is.
I don't know what
interesting.
that was about specifically now.
And I think this might be the longest full shutdown.
Like
I don't understand what a full part. I don't. Yeah, I'm not quite there, but 23 days. I mean, another week or two, and we'll be out of control here. And a big thing, especially in my industry, is the FAA. TSA, all of that, they're not going to be getting paychecks, but yet they're deemed essential workers, so they have to show up and work to keep airports running.
It's okay. Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing, and that's what's happening. So they're calling in sick as a form of protest.
Why can't they pass a bill that's funding the essential workers?
It doesn't make sense.
Well, that's essentially what that is,
because
to keep the government up and running.
This puts us at like a national security level.
You just don't fund the rest of them. If they're not essential, you don't fund them.
Well, and that's what's going to happen is all those non-essential people are going to lose their jobs permanently.
People are being furloughed already. And I mean, like, if this is not at a certain point here, day 30 probably, is not become like national security, you know, basically then, well, that affects everything. So therefore, I think that somehow the the president, Trump, should be able to override something when it comes to national security.
He did say something about how he was going to use tariff money to keep certain programs open, including like some food programs for underprivileged kids and stuff like that. But then I also read today that SNAP, you know, and Missouri is due to go out next month, I think. So November 1st. So in a week or so, you know, so I don't know. We'll have to see. Kind of along those same lines. And this is breaking news. Did you guys hear about this California 18-wheeler crash? So this happened earlier in the week, but the news really just hit today. It was an 18-wheeler, killed 3 people, and he
is this another illegal?
Yep. I didn't even need to say it, did I?
No.
Yes. He was issued a CDL by California. He was an illegal immigrant from India. He was released by the Biden administration, and issued a CDL from California shortly thereafter. So now in 2025, not only was it an accident, it was a DUI. He was under the influence, and he made no attempt to brake. So if you go watch the video, he just slams into these cars. So yeah. Well, there was been several of these.
Yeah.
So to that point, you know, of course, there was the one in Florida. And I just read today, so maybe it's starting to stir back up, that the one in Florida that killed 3 people, and this was the guy that was making that illegal U-turn on the highway.
Yeah.
He supposedly failed his CDL test 10, and yet they still give it to him. And of course, he's not even an American citizen. And they're starting to raise questions of whether these people even can speak English proficiently. Right.
They
so if you can't speak English proficiently, how can you be expected to drive?
Issuing these
well, for sure. And okay, so you want to hear the crazy stat? And not that I've 100% verified this, but it is being reported that California has issued over 60,000 CDLs to illegal aliens.
I mean, from the asphalt guy.
So they caught like
I was gonna say
Yeah.
Bobcat Man.
He
This is
he
where we
talks
need
about-
him. We need Bobcat Man to
Yeah,
talk
he talks
about.
about how hard they are to get.
well, I was gonna say they had the Sting down in Oklahoma that caught like 140 of them in like a
Well,
weekend. But that's like
No.
that's nothing if there's 60,000 of them just from California.
Right. I don't know what the time frame is on that, but the other thing is, it's not like they can just drive in California. So obviously, we had the one in Florida. I think I remember another one.
Well, you get your CDL in California, you can
York.
drive all over the
probably causes
country.
cancer.
Well, that's the thing, right? And the one in New York, and I think it was issued by New York, not California. His license read "No name given." You remember that story? No name given, and somehow he got a license. And then this is another story, but we're not going to go down it. But in Minneapolis, supposedly, as long as you have that license, you can vote, whether you're an
you have to be
American citizen or
registered?
not.
Well, Tim Walz just passed
It's
something, or
on
just
the
signed
honor
that.
system
Yeah.
in Minnesota. If you have a license and you say that you're registered to vote, they're not allowed to question it. So they
That's
just
ridiculous.
let you
Honor
vote,
system.
and
Yeah.
you're on the
Well, I
honor
know
system.
how,
And then I guess
so many
they look into
people
it
these
later.
days are so honest and truthful. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of honest and truthful, and this is
Well,
gonna
they
be my
need the
last
federal
one, man.
voter ID too.
I told you there was so much. Did you guys hear about this NBA mafia scandal that broke? This is
Where are you hearing all
nutso.
these stories?
I know,
Searches
man. I pay attention. Too much news, all that stuff. But this was breaking news, and this one is crazy. So there's not a lot of information out there right now, but this FBI probe just took down 3 mafia families from New York, and they're all names that you would think, like Gambino, the Gambino crime family, all of that stuff. And
Giovanni.
yeah, exactly. And they're all hooked up with these NBA guys. So there were 2 major NBA, one player and one coach, Chauncey Billups, the coach of the Trail Blazers. He was involved in this. So there's 2 components. And real quick, so the first component, surprise, surprise, is an underground like casino. Which, if you're like a regular Joe Schmo and you're gambling at an underground casino, of course they're cheating, right? So they were doing all kinds of crazy cheating. They had marked cards, special contact lenses, hidden cameras, AI, automatic shufflers, like nuts so stuff. So of course they were cheating. But the bigger story, if you ask me, is related to the NBA, and it's on sports betting. So of course the mafia had all this inside information about which players were going to play, if they were only going to play a half a game. Supposedly some players would say that they were going to come out at halftime due to injury. That was all made up. So they would tell their buddies to bet the under on all of their stats because they weren't going to play long enough to hit the over, and they knew it. So it's all rigged. It's all rigged. So if you're doing any of this FanDuel or whatever, watch out, man. I used to like it a little bit, but now I think it's all just run by professionals and con artists.
You think all sports
stocks,
are?
I have
they're
some
all
stock
rigged?
in that. Okay, don't be telling people that.
Well, they're taking over, man. I mean, FanDuel Sports Network, they aired the Blues broadcast.
One of them is going legal in Missouri, right, next month.
Underdog is another one in Missouri. Yeah, I think so.
Isn't Major League Baseball like sponsored by DraftKings or FanDuel or something?
Yeah. Right.
It's like you guys made such a big deal about Pete Rose, and then you are sponsored by these gambling websites. You hypocrites.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's the thing, as a fan, it's fun. It can make things a little bit more exciting, but it's also addictive. I think I think the chances of winning from an average person's
Never really
perspective
gotten into the sports gambling.
low. Yeah, but right after the Rams left, I was trying to hold on to the NFL, and I did some of that daily fantasy. Now I say F the NFL. I hardly watch now. They were, not only do they screw St. Louis, but they're also just not a great organization from a larger standpoint. So, hockey, soccer,
got hockey.
where it's at. That's right. That's right.
Hopefully we'll get baseball back sometime.
That's right. That's right. Well, it'll happen. The Cardinals are too good to be this bad for too
there
long.
you go.
So
I mean,
we'll
I
see
hope
a turnaround.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. All right, it's getting late. What are you guys doing this weekend? Anything fun?
I don't know.
We have a trunk or treat.
There you go. Trunk or treat for the kiddos. Yeah, we we got some trunk or treats next week during the week. 9 Mile Garden's doing some fun stuff this weekend, so we might run up to 9 Mile Garden, do some stuff with the kids. We got soccer Saturday
It might
morning.
rain, I think, Saturday possibly. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they keep changing the forecast. You know, when I looked it up the other day, it was going to be a washout. Then I looked it up yesterday, and I'm like, oh, they got rid of the rain. I looked it up today, and it was like a 50% chance.
It was nice today.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
We'll see. Yeah, but we'll we got Halloween next weekend, so maybe the NFNP, the Notorious Friday Night Posse, will be back with you guys next weekend. I hope Duds, I hope Nilla, I hope to see you next Friday. And until then, happy Halloween, have a great week, and we'll see you then.
Peace.
Later.
This number has been disconnected.